What is good, my people? So this is kind of like a special edition, I guess you say, because I'm putting out a second one in 1 week. And I'm only doing this because it really needs to be out there. We only have about a week left. So there's only a few weeks left for California residents to sign the official petition to recall Governor Gavin Newsome. Okay, organizers are saying that the biggest challenges so far are reaching voters and overcoming corrupt officials in the state, which is really no surprise to anybody. The deadline is February 13th, 2020. Now, they're making it really hard for folks to submit these because it has to be on a certain size paper, it has to be spaced a certain way. So there's a lot of different organizations out there that will help you get all this stuff done. They'll even send you the paper. They'll even give you a list of locations that you can go to. It might have to be some drive, but you can go to sign these. So that way you can be a part of this. It's nothing you can do on the internet. You can't sign something on the internet and say, oh, I did my part. No, that's not how recalls work. It has to be pen to paper. Okay, they have to be able to count it. So despite all this effort, so now there's lots of organizations that are kind of getting into this thing, right? And they're really hitting the streets. But the main person that seems to be hitting the news lately is by a lady by the name of Erin Cruz. She's really taking control of this, and she says that she's really ready to take the fight to Sacramento or LA or wherever it needs to go. So her obstacles right now are, like, despite support from a lot of us California residents, some counties in the state, their officials are refusing to cooperate with the recall effort against the governor, and they're not releasing the papers that have been submitted. And it's making it really hard because technically what has to happen in order for a recall is you have to have 12% of the registered voters that voted. So you take the number of people that voted in the last governor election, right? Not registered voters, but people that voted, votes counted. 12% of that number has to be, people have to sign the recall. Seems like it's not that big of a number if you ask me, with a lot of people that are just not happy with it. But some folks are still sitting there going, well, why? Why the recall? So Erin Cruz has been hitting the airwaves, and she gave a pretty good explanation on why. And I want you to check it out. Listen.
Well, I think what it comes down to is every individual person here in the state of California might have their own perspective of why he needs to be recalled. But what we look at are some of the most important things: government overreach, overtaxation. The concerns most recently are his step into the pocketbooks of Americans by giving taxpayer dollars, and Californians giving taxpayer dollars to illegal aliens for schooling, for housing, for medical. And that's just one perspective. Everybody might have their own reason. But as we look at the petition, if you want to see the more broad reasons why, we talk about crumbling infrastructure, rise of costs from gas to utilities, mass housing crisis, frightening increase in homelessness, insurmountable debt. And these are some of the things that everyday Californians are seeing in their lives every day that this man has helped contribute to, not just in his gubernatorial seat, but also as lieutenant governor.
So those are all pretty valid points, stuff that you and me, we think of all the time, and it really affects us. And we can't keep letting these people, we can't allow them to treat us like this. We're less than. So let's just go over a few things, right? So our current governor has one of the most prolific string of political failures that has ever really been seen in the United States, right? It seems like everything this dude touches turns to shit. Unfortunately, it's actually become literal. So, like, your best example would be San Francisco. So this douchebag sat on the board of supervisors and was mayor for 14 straight years, all right? While doing so, San Francisco became the homeless capital of America. That's really no surprise. Doesn't matter where you live, Idaho, Wisconsin, doesn't matter. San Francisco is just packed with homeless people, okay? So as governor, he has already seen a state whose economy was already crumbling fall even further and faster than I'm sure what most of us even expected, okay? But when it comes to getting elected, he seems to be a fucking champ at it. And I don't get it. So, but why? Why does he keep winning? Well, I'll tell you why. Because California's lost. Okay, those of us who live here realize it's true. Despite unquestionable evidence that the state's progressive policies are making things steadily worse, the shit show keeps on going with no commercial interruption. From high-speed rails that are going nowhere to high and still growing taxes, to unprecedented crime rates, to the homeless problem that's not just isolated to San Francisco anymore. I mean, look around anywhere here in the Central Valley. The state just continues to elect Democrats, and it just drives us deeper into the hole, okay? California's taxes and regulations are literally crushing businesses, and there are more opportunities in Texas for people to start new companies, get good jobs, and create better lives for their families than it is here in California. Because when tax and regulatory climates are bad, what's going to happen? People are going to move to a better economic environment. It's not a phenomenon. It's not a mystery. It's how marketplaces fucking work. I mean, not only should other state governments take note of the wrongdoings that California, trust me, the federal government should, and I'm sure is, watching how we're doing stuff so that way they know what not to do. And despite high taxes, we're constantly running on budget deficits. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, how is that possible for a state that is supposedly so fucking rich? Okay? The answer's in the promises that the Democrats make. But unfortunately, okay, I guess you could say they do keep their word on some things because they keep their promises. They yield billions of dollars spent on high-speed rails that are going absolutely fucking nowhere, massive amounts of monies that accomplish nothing at all, and even when programs work, they fail, right? More money has been spent per capita to curb off homelessness in San Francisco than anywhere else, yet it keeps getting worse. It doesn't get any fucking better. You have their clean needle programs, they have all these other stuff. They're enablers. They're not helping anything, okay? So I know what the problem is. California keeps falling and believing for these politicians. Do you realize that ever since 1968, okay, every single governor of California has had a recall put on them, okay? Only one of them actually worked. 2003, Gray Davis. He got recalled, right? We all remember that shit. That special election gave us the governor for 2 years, okay? And that wasn't all that bad. Aaron Cruz actually had more to say about that, about how they're actually going about doing this recall, about how they're actually going to model it over the recall that actually worked. Check this out.
Our recall and how we've designed it. We've modeled it after the Gray Davis recall, looking at what the people really wanted versus what they had, which is, mass taxation and all these other things. And we've harnessed that energy because it's very much of the same. And the people are fed up. So I believe that modeling this recall after Davis will help it become more successful.
So it sounds like they kind of know, they have a game plan. It sounds like they have a game plan, right? But you still think to yourself, why do we have to go through all this stuff? I don't get it. I'll tell you. We, the people, are fed rhetoric that is so thick sometimes, right? We think to ourselves, fuck, it's got to be true. Nobody's going to lie so blatantly about something like that. It has to be true, except they really do lie. It's one of the, one of the latest and big, ridiculous, things that Newsom's done actually got called out by PolitiFact. And now, if you're not too familiar with PolitiFact, they're like a very liberal, dim-based news outlet. Right? So you got to think to yourself, when a lie is so big that even your cheerleaders have to stop and say, what? You've gone a bit too far, right? I mean, I don't expect Newsom to repent and come clean anytime soon, right? As is the party of the Democratic playbook, particularly in California, the most likely response is he's going to be doubling down on his false claims because that's what Democrats do when they get caught lying. They double down. So, you want to know what the newest, or the most current bullshit verbal diarrhea that has come out of the governor's mouth would be the whole people. He says that vast majorities of San Francisco's homeless people actually came from Texas, right? That's what he's claiming. Okay, but in San Francisco, they did their own homeless survey, and it actually contradicted what the governor was saying. Their data shows a large majority reported living in the city before becoming homeless, and just a fraction were coming from out of state, right? So check this out. Newsom's office pointed to some data from San Francisco's bus ticket program for homeless people, right? It's where they can, like, get tickets to do whatever they got to do, go wherever they got to go. But that defense doesn't hold up really, because it shows just a small fraction. It shows less than 7% left from Texas. And that doesn't even demonstrate that they originally came to San Francisco from that state. It could be from any other state. So in the end, we found Newsom made just another ridiculous fucking claim. He is literally the embodiment of what he claims Trump to be. The guy's cheated on wives. He's lied about. I mean, he's corrupt. He's done. I mean, the guy pretty much, I think he talks about himself and just replaces the word Trump with Newsom. So, yeah, so we can't fully put all the blame on California lawmakers, though. I'm going to be honest with y'all, okay? Always keeping it 100, okay? We can't blame the lawmakers for all the state's failure, okay? Because they're doing exactly what California people want. They're doing not what we want, but we're the ones saying, yeah, go ahead and go for it. So people like Newsom are only fulfilling their promises to spend more, accomplish less, and keep the Democratic monopoly strong, right? People are leaving California for the employment opportunities, tax breaks, less crowded living arrangements that other states do offer. Because, I mean, states with low unemployment rates, such as Texas, are drawing people from California, whose rates are above the national average. So, I mean, it's common fucking sense, right? Taxation also appears to be a factor, especially as it contributes to the business climate, and in return, that affects jobs. Because when the business climate is fucked up, there ain't no fucking jobs. You know what I'm saying? And then your economy's going down because people don't have money to spend, and that's that. Everything becomes stagnant. Most of the destination states favored by Californians do have lower taxes. I mean, that is like the main reason when asked. It's the taxes. It's the amount of money it takes to live here in the state. States have gained the most of California's expense are rated as having better business climates. The data actually suggests that many cost drivers, taxes, regulations, and high price of housing and commercial real estate, costly electricity, union power, high labor costs, they're prompting businesses to locate outside of California, thus helping to drive the exodus out of California. But let's not just get focused on the new shit. Newsom's shady dealings have started way back in his San Francisco days. You know what I'm saying? You remember Shrimp Boy? I don't know if anybody remembers Shrimp Boy. So Shrimp Boy, right? He was known to be part of Newsom's little outer circle clique, right? They were always at functions and taking pictures together. So Shrimp Boy, his actual name is Raymond, quote, Shrimp Boy Chow, right? So because he was found guilty of conspiracy to operate a century-old community organization as a racketeering enterprise, murdering its previous leader, conspiring to try to murder other rivals. I think he was done with 5 counts of dealing in stolen liquor and cigarettes and 154 counts of money laundering. So the guy's a real fucking winner, right? So let's just take some basic things and ask ourselves, why is it like that? Why is it like this? So the last time I looked, the state of California has a very hard time keeping on their electricity for very windy days, right? So that aside, let's just look at some of the basic things that we all kind of question when we're here in our state, all right? Just a few things. So like, I don't know, electricity, keeping the lights on. So the last time I looked, the state of California had a very hard time keeping electricity on during windy days. The Democrats spend tens of billions on train of a very questionable utility and more tens of billions on supporting legal immigrants. But why can't they put a hold on the train and divert some of the money to keep the electricity on? You know what I'm saying? They could get hardened lines or bury them in the ground. I mean, there's lots of different things that can be done. The loss of days of electricity causes serious hardship for a lot of people with medical problems and just in general. I mean, California is not a third world country, right? Or is it? Did I miss something? But it seems to be heading that way. So Newsom also chose to ignore the will of Californians by signing an executive order by placing a memorandum on the death penalty in California. Remember this shit? Despite pledging to uphold the existing law during his campaign for governor, right? He said he wasn't going to do nothing about it. Newsom announced that he would not continue to implement the death penalty even after speaking to the families of the victims. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just a dickhead thing to do. The change in policy, it will result in an immediate reprieve for over 737 inmates on California's death row. Majority of Californians strongly oppose this irreversible and dangerous decision because it goes against the express will of the people. We voted on it twice. Californians voted down 2 separate ballot measures to outlaw the death penalty in 2012 and again in 2016. This man rolls in 2019, just does away with it. Both times, the electorate overwhelmingly affirmed their support for executing those who committed vicious crimes. And in fact, voters in 2006 voted to expedite the execution process, meaning hurry up. Don't let them sit there on death row for 20 fucking years while we're paying the bill in taxes. Let's shock them. Okay, death row being home to some of the worst criminals, such as William Suff, whose 2-year killing spree resulted in the violent murder of 12 innocent women. You had Rodney Alcala, is that his name? Did I say Alcala? He's on death row for at least 8 murders, but his total victim count is still unknown. And don't forget Charlie. He called that place home until April of 2017. So California's death row is filled with serial killers, child killers, and killers of entire families. These are not victims of an unjust system. These are not the worst, these are not like, oh, maybe there's a mistake. No. These are the worst of the worst. Okay, they've been given extensive due process and decades of appeals that have reaffirmed their guilt. It's no wonder voters have affirmed the death penalty repeatedly because we know that they are guilty. So while running for election in 2018, Newsome claimed that despite his own personal objections to the death penalty, he would respect the will of the people and uphold the law. Yeah, fucking right. So, but less than 100 days into his term, right? Less than 100 days from being governor, he's broken his promise, and he chose to put the rights of our worst criminals over the law and rights of California victims, right? Victims' rights advocates have expressed complete outrage, okay? If you remember, 12-year-old Polly was murdered in Petaluma in 1993, okay? Her father said that a little part of him died when he heard that Newsome was changing this. I mean, it can disregard the will of the people and the law of the land and make some kind of executive decision based on his own personal philosophy is just ridiculous. Because of this, Richard Allen Davis, who's the confessed and all over murderer of Polly, is one of the criminals that is going to be rewarded by Newsome's action. He's just going to get to sit on death row, and we're going to pay for him to sit in there for the rest of his life. So regardless of one's views on the death penalty, Newsome's actions are particularly troubling because of their implications for democracy and his path forward as governor. Voters did express their opinion on a very specific issue, yet Newsome is marginalizing the voice of the people and breaking one of the key promises he made during his election, instead of disregarding the will of the voters. Newsome could advocate for abolishing the death penalty in the legislature or a harmless grassroots effort to place it on the ballot again, but nope, instead, he chose to substitute his own will lawlessly. Okay, but yet he points a finger and saying that other people break the law. But yet when he does it, it's because it's the right thing to do. I mean, if he was truly concerned about executing innocent individuals rather than protecting dangerous criminals, Newsome could use his existing powers to review all death row cases. He can grant clemency where he feels there's an injustice. He doesn't have to just do a blanket, thing like, oh, yep, you're good. You're not going to die. That's ridiculous. This would alleviate any concern by doing it this way, like by doing it case by case, to alleviate any concern that he might put an innocent person to death. Instead, Newsome has chosen to grandstand, to curry favor with pro-criminal elements, of his base, break his own campaign promises, and ignore the law as ratified repeatedly by California voters. Newsome needs to rescind his executive order, follow the law, and heed the voices of Californians. Okay? And that's what this recall is doing. It's putting the power back in our hands. It's telling this douche, look, fool, we don't want you. You didn't do shit. You know what my problem with this guy was? I don't even think he was voted in correctly. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you why. First off, he did it like a 4-day bus tour for his election. He didn't even hit the trail, right? In the booklet that comes with all the candidates, his was blank. A blank page for Gavin Newsome. He knew he was going to win. He didn't even feel the need to even submit anything. Okay? Pelosi got him his job. His Aunt Pelosi pulled some strings. He's trying to run. They're trying to prep him for president. But you know what? I think by him being governor of California might have actually hurt those chances of him doing so. We in California have to watch our asses. Okay? The taxes are too high. The lies are too much. The power needs to stay on. The forestry needs to be taken care of. Crime needs to be reduced, and homelessness needs to be addressed. I got plenty of ideas. If anybody from the Sacramento wants to reach out to me, I got plenty of ideas. You're going to have to break bread on that fucking surplus, though, that you guys been sitting on. But I got ideas that'll get our vets back to work. And that same idea will take care of vets getting their jobs. It'll take care of cleaning up our forestry. I mean, we're talking we're gonna take out 3 birds with 1 stone with just a few ideas that I have. So be a sweetheart, would you? And go sign that petition if you feel strongly enough. Go look on the YouTube page, youtube.com/alternative taste. I post the podcast there. The sound bites that I played on this podcast tonight, I will put those, they're going to be on the videos, but I'll put the actual video clips. So you'll actually be able to see, and I'll put the organizations that you can contact to find out, where you can go to sign these papers or how to go about having them given to you. I'll put all those links in the description on this and on the YouTube. So go ahead, go check it out. Fuck, man, while you're there, fucking subscribe to the YouTube. Those counts are going up. We're still going to give away that Fire Stick. I think we're at 215. So we're looking at about 35 more subscribers, and we're doing a drawing on that bad boy. So let's get it going. So be good. Be aware, okay? Politics doesn't have to be boring, and it doesn't have to, it's going to make you pull your hair out. But whether it looks like it or not on the surface, it affects you. And you know what? You need to find those little ways on how it does affect you so that way you can be aware and be prepared. All right. Be good. Adios.